This is what a tearing your finger pulley looks like. As a warning, you may not see the tear, but you will hear it. The most common injuries come from the fingers, making up 41.2% of all climbing injuries. This small area of your body bears a remarkable distribution of pressure. The finger pulleys are the connective tissue that house the tendons in your fingers, like the eyelets of a fishing rod, keeping your tendons close to the bone as your finger bends. Out of the 5 finger pulleys, the A2 is most likely to suffer injury. Although it's the toughest, supporting the rest of your pulleys, it's not as flexible. A difficult hold like a full crimp can lead to what climbers call bowstringing, where an A2 pulley tear is followed by more pulley tears, causing the tendon to bow away from the finger bone. This is your body on sport. Before we focus on what each body part does, let's examine the ideal climber's body. If you're tall, you might think you have an automatic advantage, but it's not just height that makes the difference. In fact, height has its downsides. It's true, tall climbers can use their height to reach further, covering the same amount of ground in fewer moves. They don't need as much finger strength either. Every 20 centimeters of height requires 5% less finger strength to do the same moves. Your climbing points of contact are your feet and your hands, and the taller you are, the longer the distance is going to be for a climbing movement. But with the distance increased, more force has to be applied to hold those positions and create tension between those 2 points. And that's not the only instance where being shorter can come in handy.
So if you're taller, some of the disadvantages is that you cannot do these small box problems. You're kind of scrunched and it's a little awkward to move your body, or if you have kind of feet that have to go higher, typically since their appendages are longer, so it's a little more awkward to get the toes and feet up there.
Instead of height, consider what climbers call the ape index. That's the ratio of your height to your arm span. The average person has an ape index of 0, so height and arm span are equal, while the average pro climber will be +2. The larger the ape index, the easier it will be to reach far holds without gravity weighing on a longer body. Then again, with overhanging walls, the shorter the ape index, the closer you are to the wall, giving you a stronger grip on undercling type hold.
Smaller type climbers, they're sometimes more powerful, or they can use their body in different ways, get very creative with their beta, so-called. Way back when climbers were, out there in the wilderness climbing rocks with these cameras, they would use Betamax tapes, and then they'd be giving it to each other, sharing this information, and that kind of became slang. Oh, do you have beta for this? Let's say someone has really long legs or is extra flexible, they could do what's called breaking the beta, and they find their own way to kind of almost cheat the system, and that's another technique that people can use. Again, it's okay to break beta, it's kind of creative.
Most climbers agree there isn't a perfect body prototype, but it's important to be conscious of your strengths and weaknesses and be ready to train with them in mind. But what does it take to build your body for climbing? It's a high-impact, high-intensity sport, and though it may not look like it, every muscle in your body is working to get you up that wall.
Exercise, right? Different modes like swimming, biking, running, etc. They have what's called a metabolic equivalent, METs for short. So it kind of tells you how many calories per kilogram your body weight it burns. So something very light walking is a 2, 1 kind of thing, very low on the MET scale. General climbing is about an 8.
For years, the ideal climber body type was as skinny as possible. After all, lighter climbers carry less up the wall. But nowadays, due to the change in competition style, especially outdoors where momentum is a must, your body needs power. Power is strength with speed. This graph, the force velocity curve, shows very high force and very low speed at one end of the curve, like lifting a very heavy weight. At the other end, there's no real resistance or strength involved, but a high level of speed, like throwing a baseball. The sweet spot for developing power is about 30 to 50% of your maximum strength. To develop an even broader range of power, it helps to use explosive type movement. Fast and efficient climbing can help you avoid fatigue. The slower you move through a route, the more strength you need to maintain each hold and carry out each movement. Imagine doing a single push-up at 10% of your ordinary speed. Not as easy. Climbers who don't have the power to push themselves through dynamic moves are instead forced to make more creative maneuvers, focusing on precision and technique to make their way through a route.
Even a small foot chip or a small hold or a small adjustment in your body just makes that move or climb possible or easier. And it's fascinating how nuanced it is, but it's a thing, yeah. They call it the micro beta, like this little tiny adjustment, yeah.
A crucial element in creative climbing is flexibility. With two hands firmly on their holds, an unusually high heel reach can give you the leg up you need, improving posture and preventing injury in the process. When you perform a high step, lifting your foot up high, and need your hips to bend a lot, or when you use techniques like flagging, reaching out to the side, or stemming, pressing your legs wide, having flexible and mobile hips is key. Regular targeted dynamic stretches will get you there. Power and flexibility mean nothing if you can't grab your holds.
Come on, Julia.
It's so hard.
Yeah.
So hard.
Training and conditioning your skin to withstand rough surfaces is just as important as building your muscles.
Oh, the skin is super important, ultra important. I mean, it is the protective layer. It's the biggest organ in the body. But for climbers specifically, your skin has to acclimate and adapt to the environment that you're putting it in. And for climbers, it's a lot of, sharp or hard or very textured surfaces.
Crucially, your skin should be dry. As a climber, your worst enemy is a natural part of exercise: sweat. The sweat glands in your hands produce moisture that can make staying on the wall impossible. Chalk, magnesium carbonate, absorbs sweat from your hands so you can maintain a dry grip. That's why you'll often see climbers with a bag of chalk around their waists. But too much chalk residue on a hold can actually make it harder to hold onto.
I want to brush this one. You want to brush it for me?
Yeah, you gotta save your arms. You gotta save your arms, okay? Oh, this is like the most awkward.
It's just like that's the one I'm gonna grab. So I want it to be like not greasy.
We need good texture.
After everyone touches it, it gets really greasy.
Yeah, it gets really greasy or chalky. So traditionally, yeah, with rope climbing, they have it kind of attached to their harness. And they, since it is a sustained climb, longer climb, they do need to chalk up regularly because the hands get a little, sweaty along midway. It's a skill that you have to develop to find resting positions. So obviously you don't want to chalk up when it's a hard move or something really kind of sketchy. So she finds areas that she can kind of hold on to rest.
The skin on our hands and feet has friction ridges, like our fingerprints, that increase grip similar to how tree frogs have adhesive pads to help them climb. To make the most of these friction ridges when climbing, your skin should have these important qualities. It should be smooth, avoiding weak spots where tearing can start. Climbers even use sandpaper to smooth burrs in the skin.
It is usually one of the first things as either a beginner or intermediate that is a limiting factor because it wears down and it hurts and it's very difficult to overcome that. You just need the time to rest and let it adapt.
It should be thick. This thickness can be achieved after a lot of climbing or manual work, adding to that layer of comfort when pulling on rough, rocky surfaces.
Once it does, you develop these thick calluses that work for you in your favor, and they actually give you extra texture and grip, but also they give you that extra layer of protection and padding that you need. Then after a while, it becomes almost a non-issue.
But you can't rely too heavily on thick skin.
If they build up too thick, now you have the risk that they actually tear off, which is common in climbing. They call them like flappers and things like that, where it could just ruin your entire climbing session or trip.
This indoor climbing wall is made up of a variety of holds that resemble those you may see outdoors. While no two holds are identical, they can be separated into distinct categories. Jugs are large open holds, excellent for resting on. Edges vary from tiny cuts in the wall to huge ledges. Crimps are very small, barely enough room for the pads of your fingers. Pinchers are exactly as they sound, with the thumb offering extra strength to the hold. Slopers are deceivingly tricky, rounded without an angle to hold onto. Pockets are holes wide enough for your whole hand or only a finger. Underclings allow you to grip from the bottom to pull up. Then there's the side pull, the gaston, the jib, the slot, and the jug so big you call it a bucket.
The black holds here, the black foot, you notice how sometimes they're a little reflective. So this is what they call a dual text type hold, where The bright reflective parts are actually slippery. So they're not really textured, so
really
it's not
slick.
great for the feet. So it's very awkward to kind of step on them, so she's got to be careful, because if you accidentally don't have the right placement or the pressure, it could easily slip off. It's very slippery, yeah. But again, she's using really good technique here, kind of pushing off that flat part of the wall. Smear, Julia, smear. Yeah, use that friction. Beautiful. Look at that. You see that big hold on the right there? Look at the flexibility here. Awesome.
Wow, that's hard.
Yeah. These holds are pinches coming up, which are, again, not super friendly, but she's got to kind of wrap her thumb around them, grab them. And she's doing a beautiful little back flag here, which again, counter shifts her weight so that she can pull and move off of that hold.
When it comes to fingers, the thicker the better. As you grab onto a hold, you're activating the flexor tendon, the flexible tissue that helps you grip, which is supported by a series of pulleys all along the fingers. A thicker finger often means a stronger flexor tendon, helping you avoid the dreaded pulley tear. As you continue to build your climbing muscles, your fingers will follow suit, but too thick, and they'll have trouble fitting into pockets. Shorter fingers can come in handy, since the shorter distance between the joint and the hold creates a mechanical advantage, allowing for greater force to be applied with less effort. However, a wider finger span can help for certain holds like big pinches. The hold that puts the most strain on your fingers is the crimp, so it's important to use the right technique if you want to avoid injury. There are 3 types of crimps: the open hand, the half crimp, and the full crimp. The open hand, or the 3-finger drag, involves hanging your index, middle, and ring fingers off the hold, relying on friction and tension rather than your pulley muscles. This crimp is helpful for conserving energy. The half crimp is the most versatile, bending the same 3 fingers into a 90-degree angle while the shorter pinky remains straight. Meanwhile, the thumb rests next to the index finger or onto the hold if you can. The full crimp is the same as the half crimp, but the distal interphalangeal joint of the thumb folds over the index finger, securing the shape and allowing you to generate more force on the hold. With a well-calloused hand to grab a hold, it'll take grip strength to keep holding on. The average man can grip at 105 to 115 pounds of force, while most women grip at around 55 to 75 pounds. Elite climbers, on the other hand, can exceed 140 pounds, around the weight of a Komodo dragon. To build that strength, it helps to use a campus board. Campusing is moving from handhold to handhold without using your feet. But it's not just the hands that produce that gripping power.
The forearms are incredibly important as well, because they are the motor that kind of drives the fingers into closing or holding onto a hold so it doesn't pop open. We have these what they call synergistic muscles, where if you close your fingers, it kind of transmits all that force to your forearms and then to your biceps. When you climb, if you don't warm up properly, or you're just fatigued in general, your arms literally become pumped, where it becomes really turgid, and like you kind of cannot like use your fingers properly, like kind of like that gym pump I guess people get. It's kind of a scary feeling, especially if you're climbing or a long endurance route and you just find somewhere to shake out. You know, they literally like shake their arms and just kind of chalk up.
This forearm pump is caused by a combination of factors. The burning sensation is a result of blood lactate, a kind of fuel for your cells when they're working hard. Concentration of blood lactate is usually 1 to 2 millimoles per litre at rest, but can rise to greater than 20 millimoles per litre when exerting yourself on the wall. At the same time, more blood is flowing to your arm as you work to hold your grip. Think about when you donate blood, and the nurse asks you to clench your fist to locate a vein more easily. When climbing, holding that same static position for too long can quickly lead to muscle fatigue. That's where your legs come in.
Utilizing, again, good foot technique work here. Corkscrew motion, drop knee there, where the drop knee is kind of twisting, pivoting off the knee, and really utilizing that mechanical advantage where she could step up through the legs rather than just yanking and pulling through with the arms. Again, a lot of efficiency here, where if you were just to use a lot of arms, you'd quickly tire out and it wouldn't be sustainable.
In climbing, straight arms are encouraged. You'll want your skeleton to take most of the weight, leaving your muscles, especially your legs, to do the lifting. The slightest bend in your elbow causes your muscles to have to do the work to hold it there.
Funny thing about climbing, again, if you're not familiar with it, people misunderstand or they underestimate the importance of legs. Legs are extremely important. They place where you are, they control your body mass and center, and that placement dictates also how much or how little you're using your fingers and arms. So it's efficiency. If you're not properly utilizing your legs and taking full advantage of them, you are making it harder on yourself by having these smaller appendages try to work up to that. So everything just has to work harder to compensate for that. The legs, we forget, they're extremely powerful. They're much more powerful than our arms could be. So being efficient with that pattern and that strength, you quickly find out it's actually a lot of legs.
Before reaching the next handhold, move your feet to a higher position first. That way, your legs can do most of the work by pushing off the hold, not unlike a deadlift in weightlifting. Your quadriceps and hamstrings help you step up on footsteps and control your body positioning. Your calves are activated for the precise footwork on small holds, and your ankles and feet work with your toes to maintain balance.
We have this funny thing in climbing where we make like these sounds, like almost like this, like it's when we exhale all our air and like just temporarily like tighten our core to like make the next move. I know it sounds really funny, but you'll hear it all the time in the gym, people just like grunting.
Engage your core. It's something you hear in every sport, and for good reason. It keeps you balanced, supports your spine, and leads to a fitter form overall. In climbing, it serves as a vital bridge between your upper body and lower body, but it's the hips, not the abdominals, that serve as your center of mass.
The most common thing I see is that just in general, people don't know how to move. They're so rigid. We're so used to not moving our core in different ways that once you have to, it's a little foreign for them, or it's counterintuitive. Not only the abdominals, but the hips are incredibly important. We often forget our hips are really the true center of mass that we have, not really the abdominal region. Hence why also the harness is actually kept there. Beautiful. There's a drop knee there where she's pivoting her hips and purposely creating more center with her mass so that she can move on to the next move here. When you're on things that are overhung, meaning not flat, but they're kind of like angled, like a cave or some kind of feature, this is where you have to stay close to the wall, drive your hips into it, make sure you're not sagging, because otherwise that's going to really weigh you down more.
Each climbing route poses a problem in need of solving. And without the proper technique while moving between holds, you can easily find yourself stuck with nowhere to go but down.
High feet here so that she can not utilize too much of her own fingers and arms to just yank and pull. Although climbing is a lot of arms and hands and fingers, we do want to be efficient with our technique work so that we don't tire out too quickly. And again, wonderful big move there to a crimp hold, which is pretty small, rough on the fingers, but she's got powerful finger flexors, great back muscles, awesome. Woo! Good job.
When on the wall, it's important to know you can put all your trust in the gear you take with you. These shoes may look like simple Velcro slippers, but they're one of the most complex tools in a climber's kit. Climbing shoe manufacturers like La Sportiva and Tenaya have invested huge amounts studying gorilla prehensile abilities and feline fingertip sensitivity to develop the perfect climbing shoe. The basic shoe is made up of material upper, leather synthetic or hybrid, and rubber rands that wrap around the shoes to provide grip. You can feel the rand doing its job when you balance on a small edge and the back of the shoe pushes on the back of your heel. Without that support, your footwork would be far less precise, and precise footwork is everything when you're high on the wall. The shoe will have some degree of downturn. This is the extent to which the forefoot area tilts downward from completely flat to aggressive. The greater the downturn, the more power reaches the toes, supporting those small footholds in overhanging terrain.
Climbing shoes are typically designed so that your feet are a little bit scrunched and kind of almost like pointed so that you can really create that focal point of balance and strength. And yeah, so sometimes, unfortunately, I do see also big toe injuries where they're like, yeah, just toeing a lot or doing these like very footy climbs and my toe hurts. My name is Richard Lee. I'm a physical therapist at R. Lee Physical Therapy.
Today, our climber Julia is visiting Richard for a checkup.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
I mean, currently obviously there's always little finger injuries here and there,
Yeah.
but sometimes I experience pain kind of in the lower part of my middle finger here and this finger.
So finger injuries, super common for as a climber, of course. Our main tendons kind of run along the fingers, allow us to grip and kind of do all these different moves as climbers that we do, and of course run all the way down to the forearm. A lot of times with climbing, there's a high force load on the finger tendons, which causes them to get achy, or with enough volume or force, they kind of get a little sprained, like micro tears occur. So does it hurt when I poke this here?
Ever so slightly.
It does.
Yeah, just
On a
tiny
scale of
bit.
0 to 10, what are you thinking?
Like a 3.
Like a 3? Okay,
Yeah.
so like
It's not like
moderate
pain, but I can feel achy.
discomfort.
achiness,
Okay.
yeah,
Does this one feel better, worse, or the
That
same?
one feels better.
Better. So it's notably this one,
yeah.
and then of course this one I'm assuming 0, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Just the pressure, yeah. So again, your flexor tendon, maybe possibly even the A2 pulley, which is like a pulley that's located on the finger that holds the flexor tendon in place, could be irritated. Commonly, again, with smaller type holds or very forceful type moves. So with this level of pain or discomfort and the way it moves, again, just even those basic pieces of information could tell me she's not completely, not able to climb like off the wall. I would just kind of advise, okay, like there is probably a little bit of irritation. When did you last climb?
2 days ago.
2 days ago, okay. So again, fairly normal for a few days, like same as if you would work out and you'd feel kind of sore for a couple of days. So again, I deem that like a fairly normal type of ache pain, and the 3 out of 10 or below is actually a pretty good sign where it's like, oh, it's tolerable. So it would be a low-grade injury if not, and I would say, hey, give it just a little extra time before you climb again. And then if you can in that time, also start, just doing some light gentle loading for the fingers and doing some flexor exercises.
It was hurting a lot, and then, as us athletes do,
Yeah.
I was climbing and on it,
Yeah.
and I was like, wait, it actually feels kind of good.
Yeah, when it warms up and
And
stuff.
then, and then it like magically just felt better,
Okay.
and then it like hurt again another time. So it's just this ongoing thing of like, it hurts and it doesn't. And
I see. So listening to that kind of tells me it's a little bit more chronic. If it's reoccurring, it has this kind of pattern where it feels good, and then you do something, and then it kind of exacerbates, and then it goes back down. I try to point out that there is maybe a little bit of a cycle going on where you're healing and your body's trying to heal, but then when you apply this force load too suddenly or too quickly before it's ready, it kind of reverts back into its injured state. So that's where I'm going to say, again, try to recognize your overall climbing pattern, your routine, how often you climb, and if anything, we can add these little buffers so that we can help it really along the journey. If you're doing what's called projecting, which is climbing kind of at your limit, I would say maybe avoid some of that limit climbing for several weeks until this like kind of fully goes away, and keep that kind of mid-level climbing there until we can kind of slowly, gradually ramp it up.
Comparing climbing with other sports, you're relatively safe from injury, especially indoors. Studies show 4 injuries for every 1,000 hours of climbing, next to soccer at almost 8 and basketball at just over 9. If you do sustain an injury, 93% of them are down to overuse.
The highest incidence of injuries in younger people, males especially, is what they kind of deem the weekend warrior types, where traditionally they have like the 5 days a week in the office, mostly sedentary, and then that one Saturday or Sunday they're just going hard with the boys, or that's where the injuries are really commonplace, because your body is adaptive, and 5 days out of the week or 6 days out of the week you're mostly doing nothing, and then all of a sudden you give it this high stress force load. It's like, well, no wonder you got injured.
Avoiding injury is about paying attention to your body, from the pressure on the pulleys in your fingers to the extending flexors in your toes. Up to 80% of climbers experience foot pain simply because their shoes don't fit.
Contrary to like common belief, injuries that I see or that are most common is like the micro-traumatic injuries, not the macro. So people often think, oh, you get injured by doing this really hard thing, or you fall and you break something, or something tears. It's a small sliver. In reality, it's really just these over time kind of practices that I see where individuals get really excited, or they don't understand, maybe what they're doing is too much or too quick.
7.7% of injuries happen to the hand, while another 7.7% are forearm or elbow pathologies. Lower leg or foot injuries make up 10.6%, but it's shoulders that contribute 20.2%.
So the shoulders are also very susceptible to injury, not only because we use them quite a bit for climbing, very overhead reachy type moves in awkward positions, but also people sometimes forget this, our shoulders are the most fragile joint in our body, just simply because they're the most mobile. A lot of rotator cuff tears I see, labrum tears, bicep tears. I've had plenty of those too, so I'm very familiar with that.
When you decide you're ready to take your climbing outdoors, expect a higher chance of injury. Fatality rates can vary from as low as 0.13 per 1,000 hours of climbing to more extreme examples like K2, the second tallest and deadliest mountain in the world to climb, with a fatality rate as high as 25%.
You know, there's crazy ones where people could deck by some freak accident or mistake, or maybe even gear failure. They fall from an incredibly tall height. Flatter ones, if you fall, they call it cheese grating, which is kind of, gnarly. It's a gnarly term, but yeah, you essentially you can scrape up things. You can, bump into stuff and your skin's kind of gone. But yeah, those are some pretty vicious things I've seen.
Death is a very rare consequence, with roughly 30 climbing-related deaths recorded each year out of over 44 million active climbers. 25% of these deaths are a result of errors while rappelling, using ropes, and 30% are due to free solo climbing accidents, climbing with no aid. When free soloing, one simple mistake can cost you your life. Thankfully, an ordinary climber like yourself will have soft mats to break your fall, but even then, there's a right way and a wrong way to fall.
Believe it or not, I've heard, again, crazy stories, people falling from 40 feet from the top and landing, but being okay because of that layer of mat. Understanding also like how to properly fall is a skill in and of itself. Because at first, that's how most people do get injured. They don't understand how to land, or sometimes you don't fight it and you just kind of like land weird, but that's still safer than trying to right yourself and getting something like your leg or ankle caught under yourself, and that could actually cause a fracture or something. A lot of climbers also, both indoors and out, the immediate instinct is to brace backwards with their arms. Yeah, they call them foosh injuries, fall on outstretched hand. It's an amazing thing. The human body is just like incredible. Just don't underestimate it, and don't take it for granted, and never limit yourself,
This is what breaking your leg looks like.
That is. There goes a little bit too fast for his own good. Nice contest, but a foul. Paul George.
Indiana Pacers forward Paul George was in the final 10 minutes of a practice game when he sprinted to block a layup before landing hard in the corner of the backboard stanchion. All that approaching speed generated a powerful impact on his tibia and fibula, causing a devastating open fracture. It may look like a career ender, but within 4 to 6 months, you can be ready for the rebound. And you want to be ready, because this game is fast.
Everything has to be one motion. Come down, show the ball. I finish high. With my elbow not bent or anything.
Because the people who actually play make it look easy, people are like, oh yeah, I can play. It's like, no, you can't.
This is your body on sport. You can play basketball no matter how tall you are. At 5'3", Charlotte Hornets point guard Muggsy Bogues spent his childhood being told he could do anything besides basketball. So what did he do? He went on to play 14 seasons in the NBA. But you don't need this show to tell you it helps to be tall. The NBA's average height for the 2024-25 season is 6 feet 7 inches, with the tallest, Zach Edey, reaching 7'4". You'll have a longer reach for shots, blocks, and defensive coverage. To be a successful basketball player, regardless of height, you'll want a lot of strength, power, and agility. Agility is your ability to control your movement and change directions quickly. Power is your ability to combine speed and strength, like sprinting and jumping. Let's break training down by position. Centers are on the taller, heavier side, with the highest percentage of body fat, while forwards can vary. The small forward is known to be a jack of all trades, while the power forwards excel in height and strength. Guards tend to have the lowest body mass, fat percentage, and height, but they make up for it in speed and accuracy. Recently, point guards, who take on the role of running offense for the team, are the heaviest they've ever been, while the other positions seem to be losing weight. Overall, today's average NBA player is 215 pounds. It's a game of constant starts, stops, and changes in direction over 48 minutes, which can become 2.5 hours with breaks and stoppage time. In this time, you'll find yourself covering anywhere between 2.8 and 3.1 miles each game, spending just 34% playing, 57% walking, and 9% standing. These changes in pace require a strong aerobic and anaerobic metabolic system. Your anaerobic system is responsible for successful jumps, sprints, accelerations, and decelerations in-game. It relies on the breaking down of glucose, a type of sugar, without oxygen. Lactic acid can build up in the muscles, used as fuel, but too much can cause a burning sensation from buildup and soreness from muscle tissue micro-tears later. Around 65% of active game time uses aerobic energy. This energy requires oxygen to fuel the muscles for endurance exercise like running, swimming, and cycling. Your body uses oxygen to break down fats, carbohydrates, and proteins to keep you going for longer. While both aerobic and anaerobic exercise are crucial in basketball, anaerobic metabolism is the primary energy system across positions. Let's look at how each body part contributes to the sport. In a fast-moving sport like basketball, it's vital to look around you for opportunities everywhere. The ball's direction can change at any moment, and with it, the players. When you have possession, you may look one direction, preparing to pass or shoot, but move in the opposite direction to trick your opposition. That's called a head fake. Your shoulder contains the most mobile joint in your body, the glenohumeral joint, with 6 degrees of free movement, and while it's in use throughout the game, it matters most when you're making a shot. Lining up for the shot, your feet will be shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent, and body balanced, eyes on the target. You'll push your feet into the ground and bring your shooting arm aligned with the basket. You'll flex your elbow and wrist for power, guiding the ball to your target. With momentum from your lower body, you'll extend your arm fully and snap your wrist. This will be what adds the all-important backspin that keeps the ball steady in the air and softens its landing on the rim. Shoulder injuries, although less common, have a big impact on the game's outcome. If you injure your shoulder, say a rotator cuff sprain, that impacts the tendons that keep the joint stable, you'll see 64% more of your shots blocked. When it comes to handling the ball, you need precise coordination from your elbows through to your fingertips. While an amateur's joints might move in opposite directions, an expert's whole arm will move as one coordinated unit. It helps to dribble accurately, but it's even more important to do it consistently. The faster your dribble tempo, the less consistent your dribble will be.
Especially when we get low. Trying to go as fast as you can without the ball going dead. Bring it back up.
If you're a skilled dribbler, you'll be able to change tempos as smoothly as a runner might transition from a walk to a run. An expert's hand will also be in contact with the ball for longer, using a damping effect to soften contact, especially when you're booking it across the court.
So you have Emma's a center, so she's going to be going against people who are tall. Okay, she's got to make sure that she can be in their face. She's got to make sure that she can guard them. And so, like I said, as you can see, I'm 5'4", and Emma is miles over me jumping, and when she has her arms up, like it's a wrap. Like, how are they going to get around her?
Woody Harrelson knows it all too well. Jumping is one of the most important skills you can have on the court. When you're jumping on a single leg, you're probably doing a layup. Unlike a standing jump, when you're blocking or taking a jump shot, layups usually have a running start toward the net, pushing off from one leg like the long jump or high jump. Studies show that a faster run to the net doesn't increase jump height, but it does increase your muscle activation and the force of your impact on the way down. You'll be powerful, but you'll be risking injury if you're not in control. In these jumps, the key is to transfer your horizontal velocity into vertical velocity. That means activating your tibialis anterior and your gastrocnemius to push off and land.
Yep, so right now we're just doing some chest passes. Now we're gonna do overhead skip. These are how my outlet passes to the guard look, off of a rebound.
Remember, I'm short.
When passing, the faster the ball leaves you, the harder it will be to intercept, as long as it stays accurate. The most common pass you'll find is the two-handed chest pass. Your overhead pass can evade defenders. Just bring the ball behind your head, extend your arms forward, and use your back for force.
Now, it's important when I do the overhead skip pass that I'm not just throwing it like this. I want to step into my pass to give it more force, more air, because then I can just get off balance if I'm not stepping into it.
Do you want to show them a longer one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For example, let's say there's a rebound, I'm getting it, I'm looking at outlet, I'm stepping right into that pass. So I'm on balance. Rather than I get the rebound, the balance is not really there. You know, I'm susceptible to travel. That's a turnover, we don't want that. So I'm just gonna step into it, make a clean pass, and yeah, go to work from there.
It's true, your core isn't just about shredded abs. It's a vital bridge between your upper and lower body's transfer of power. Your trunk, or this area, and your pelvis down here transfer energy to your arms and legs by stabilizing your lumbosacral region. In turn, the force generated by your limbs is distributed back to your core, reducing that load on your joints when your feet hit the ground. If your core isn't stiff and stable, you're at a higher risk of injury and poor performance.
People think that a shot is just from the upper body because that's where you see the ball released from. But as you can see, if you're looking at her ankles and her knees, she's coming all the way through. You get up to the hips, that's where her power is going to come from. The glutes are a powerhouse, so glute activation is super important. Whether you're running, whether you're shooting, whether you're defending, no matter what you're doing on the court, your glutes are at the center of that movement. If you need to be able to pivot, your glutes and your core are gonna hold you so that you are stable. And then when you're coming up on the balls of your feet, you're getting that extra spring action. Okay, so that gives you a little bit more agility, a little bit more power in order to execute your shot and what you're doing.
For fast movements, you need fast feet. In any given game, you'll have as much as 1,000 changes of movement patterns, happening on average every 2 seconds. But not all feet are created equal. This is a foot, and this is your navicular bone. This is what supports your foot's arch, that curved structure on the soles of your feet that help to absorb the impact of your weight on the court. And the navicular drop is how far that bone moves between a weight-bearing position and a relaxed position. If you've got a lower navicular drop, your arches are stiffer, giving you a more stable platform to move from side to side. This helps in the game when you want to quickly change direction, but excessive stress can lead to ankle injuries. With a higher navicular drop, you're more mobile and flexible, but that's not always a benefit.
Yes.
It may decrease your chances of a foot injury, but your movements will transfer the force to your knees and hips instead, putting you at risk there. If you're in the average range, your navicular drop will be between 5 and 9 millimeters. However your particular navicular drops, there are ways to protect yourself and keep you on your feet long term.
After 10 years, I would hope I know what I'm doing. You can slide back a little bit more. After 10 years, you also learn everybody has preferences for taping. And so with basketball, I found that if you mix a little bit of basketball ankle taping with soccer ankle taping, soccer players don't like any tape at all. They want the least amount on there. And basketball players, you need to make sure it's high enough. Different ankle tapes, if you go too far up in the foot, then it can start to squeeze the space and the arch, and it doesn't feel comfortable when you're trying to run around, when you're trying to move. A lot of the times we'll use taping as a means of assistance. If someone has an injury and it's a little bit more painful to run or jump or change direction without it, then we'll use this to help with add a little bit of stability, but with that comes less flexibility. And so, you know, it's a give or take with taping. There's many different types of tapes. What I'm doing right now is a typical standard ankle tape with just white tape. It's not flexible at all, it's cloth, but a little thinner, and it's able to mold to the skin based on angles, but you also have to know what those angles are. You can get bubbles and tears and things that can cause blisters if you're not careful with how you do it. So you do need to know how to tape an ankle and understand the anatomy of the ankle in order to be able to do it correctly.
If anybody has ever seen me play, they know I jump a lot. You know, I'm always under the basket, getting rebounds. So like that support is very, very good for my explosiveness and like how efficiently I can get to cuts and get the rebound or box somebody out, jumping high. Very important. And with Ali, like she said, it isn't just like a fix, but it's an assistance. So like if you're gonna look to get taped by her, she's gonna look for you to do rehab to get to the bottom of the problem.
Yes, Emma.
So, you're not just getting taped to get taped.
You have to be able to trust your body. If you can't trust your body, then you're just gonna get worse. Your body can start to rely on the tape and become weaker. And so you wanna make sure that you're doing adequate prehab or rehab. If you don't have an injury and you wanna get taped, you're gonna be doing rehab before you have an injury to get better. And actually in Emma's case, that was the case when she first got here, and I'm so proud of her because by her coming in and wanting to do the work ahead of time, we were able to correct some things in her hips and her knees that affect her ankles because everything's connected. And instead of having numerous injuries throughout the season, she may have little aggravations instead because she did all the work ahead of time to make sure that she could control her body appropriately, that she had the range of motion in her joint where it wasn't going to result in an actual injury, and it more resulted in an irritation that hurt a little bit, healed quickly, and she really didn't have any downtime. Some people with ankle tapes will do a basket weave. It's really preference. There are so many different ways to be creative with taping. So it's really nice as an athletic trainer that you can customize your skill set per person. And then also you learn as an AT, you have to let the tape do what it wants to do. Because if you try and force it to go one way, it'll tell you differently. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it feels very secure. Like I could jump out the gym.
This is the taping area. We also have hot and cold whirlpools. We have a treatment area and we have a rehab area. In our tiny space, we make do with what we have.
Despite its non-contact policy, basketball still stands among the higher risk sports for injury. It's fast and aggressive, demanding constant movement in all directions. Basketball has between 6.3 and 12.9 injuries per 1,000 hours of playing, the most common of them occurring in the lower body. Knees and ankles face the most strain, with knees contributing to between 20% and 44% of all injuries, especially the dreaded anterior cruciate ligament tear. 17 to 33% of injuries happen in the ankles. If your foot lands poorly, maybe on another player's foot, after a rebound or a jump, you might suffer a lateral ankle sprain, something 25% of NBAers suffer every season. Even just overuse or repetitive microtrauma from so much stopping and starting can cause chronic pain like ankle impingement syndrome or Achilles tendinopathy.
Previously, Emma has had some Achilles tendonitis issues, and a lot of her pain would present as sharp pain through here, stinging pain through here. They're sprinting. Basketball players are sprinters. For sure, they may have a little bit of different form from a track and field sprinter, but they are sprinting up and down the court, similar to soccer. They're sprinting up and down the field. You're on the balls of your feet a lot. That puts pressure on your Achilles tendon because it's connected to your calf. Your calf is the one that's firing off, and obviously your whole body is connected, so it's in conjunction with that. But for Emma, she had a lot of pain coming through this Achilles, and what we found was we had to do a lot of work with her plantar fascia, which is also connected to your Achilles tendon through the foot. we're gonna take a look at your ankle and see where your range of motion is now, comparative bilaterally. So I want you to relax your foot for me. Okay, I want you to bring your foot all the way up towards you. So what we're looking for here is that she has equal range of motion. This one's has a little less dorsiflexion. And so we wanna make sure that there are no inconsistencies side to side, because when you have those inconsistencies, it puts you more at risk for recurrence of injury or first time injury. So I want you to point all the way down for me, curl your toes, that looks good. Come back up. All right, you're gonna bring your ankle out to reach me, leave your knees where they are. I just want you to bring your ankle out this way for me. Same on this side.
Okay.
Go ahead. Nice. Okay, bring this up a little bit more. And sometimes you just have to coach, all right, push, 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 push. So one of the exercises that we would do if I found some inconsistencies in Emma's range of motion, we would do an example. So feet up towards you. Okay, I want you to push this one, try and reach my finger as much as you can. And so you get that little extra range of motion to try and make sure that she's getting even. Come down, we're gonna do 5 of these. Yep, that's good. Come back up. All the way up, all the way up, all the way up. Nice, all the way down. Again, come up, come up, come up, come up. There you go, good. Come back down. Good, up one more time. Come up, come up, come up, come up, and back down. Nice, all right, now I want you to try yourself. Bring it all the way up as far as you can. Okay, and so now we see that she's back even, and those are just some of those little things that we'll do at the beginning, whether it's before practice, after she's done some prehab exercises, before taping, if it's after practice and we just need to work on that, just to get that range of motion back in the musculature. Now, if we're talking about the joint, there's several ligaments in your ankle. So you have the ATF, which is when you talk about lateral ankle sprain, a lot of people are thinking about, you have the CF ligament that's on the side here, and then you have a bunch of medial ligaments on the inside. So medial deltoid ligaments. So for Emma, she actually has more laxity, meaning that she has a little bit more give in the ligament on the outside, her CF ligament, which is typically normal, but she's a little tight on the inside with her medial deltoid ligaments. And for her, that's due to previous injury. And we have to continue to work on that, but the most important thing is that on both sides, she has the same range of motion. You cannot fix all of the idiosyncrasies in everybody's body. When you have an elite athlete, if you see something that's off, it doesn't mean that it's a problem.
As for the rest of your body, you're not in much risk of upper body injuries, with head and face lacerations being a possibility with all those hands flying around. But fingers are another story altogether. Fingers represent between 11 and 19% of injuries in the sport, mainly as a result of contact with the ball. A jammed finger is the result of a fully extended finger colliding with an oncoming ball. The sudden force can tear or rupture your finger ligaments, usually at the middle knuckle joint, causing swelling and loss of mobility. If you ever reach the height to dunk, your fingers might even suffer. The impact of your hands with the pointed edges of the hoop, or the support that joins the hoop and the backboard, can cause lacerations or nerve damage. But hey, it looks like fun. Whether you're 5'3" or 7'4", basketball will have your body moving every direction, horizontal and vertical. Every jump, pass, and pivot relies on your body and mind to be working in sync. It's not just a game of running around, bouncing the ball, sinking threes and dunking. It's a balance of power, precision, and speed. And the more you get to know your body, the better you'll perform. This is what breaking your wrists looks like. If you're going to break anything on a skateboard, it'll most likely be your wrist. In the sudden moment of falling, your first instinct might be to reach your hand out to brace for impact. But that just focuses all that landing force into one area. That's the wrong way to fall. Now for the right way.
When we try a trick, falling is baked into it. The best way to fall is to spread out the fall over time and space. All right. We didn't want you to fall, but now we got the clip of you falling, so that's good.
Yeah, right.
Skateboarders come in all shapes and sizes. I think that there's pros and cons to different body types, like the shorter skaters. I think they have a lower center of gravity, so they might be able to do more technical tricks, have that control. Whereas a taller skater, I mean, pretty much every obstacle is gonna feel a little bit smaller.
Tony Hawk was like pretty tall.
Yeah, Tony Hawk would be an example of like a taller skater that was definitely very good at, you know, manipulating the board in the air and everything on the ramps.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
I was gonna cry if you didn't see that one.
As a skater, you might gravitate towards different kinds of tricks based on your body type. I know I'm the shorter end of things, so maybe I would shy away from jumping down like really big sets of stairs because they would just seem really, really scary to me, where I might focus more on like technical combinations, being able to twist, and I think my lower center of gravity really helped that because relative to the board, I was closer to it.
There are definitely more skaters in the spotlight these days who are a little on the larger build, especially upper body. Like, yeah, Jamie Foy is bigger, but who's that one dude?
He was in the Olympics, right?
Yeah, he was in the Olympics. Cardano Russell or something.
Yeah, I know one downside to being like a taller, like more muscular, heavier skateboard would be that they break boards all the time, like jumping down things. If you're just off a little bit, if you know you want to land with your feet on the bolts, but if you're just off by a little bit and you've got that extra weight, you're just snapping boards.
Just that pressure point. Yeah, I mean, that's something for me personally. I haven't broken too many boards in the many years of skating, probably because I haven't, you know, just don't weigh as much.
Skateboards can typically hold around 200 pounds or 90 kilograms of standing weight, with longboards bearing 250 pounds on average. They're primarily made from 7 to 9 layers of maple wood, which has a tight grain structure that makes it ideal for resisting impacts. But on higher impacts, like when you ollie, you're generating more weight, nearly 4 times your body weight, adding stress not only to the board, but to your lower limbs as well. We'll be getting to that later when we talk body parts.
Visibly, I see more of a variety, because traditionally it's been like, you know, lankier and maybe like lighter was better, but
thinking of a skater like being like very lean, just like skating all day and that like cardio, just like burning so many calories and not taking a break and just being like really lean, maybe more like a Bruce Lee physique.
On a more general level, I think every skateboarder should try to stretch a bit. I think there is more of a focus on like improving your fitness outside of the skate park, meaning like, you know, going to the gym.
Back in the day, we would say training for skateboarding was basically just skateboarding all day. Because with skateboarding, you're not just doing the tricks and things you see, but we're also skating from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And I think even to this day, there's skaters out there that if you ask them, what do you do to train to skateboard? They would say, I just go skate, man. Skating all around, like New York City, for example, spots all over. You spend the whole day skating from point A to point B. That in itself is a workout. Even when you're there, you're kind of warming up with your tried and true tricks over and over again, just repetition. So this is my skateboard. We've got, the board itself is made out of wood. On the top, it's covered with this grip tape, this black stuff. It's almost like sandpaper that your feet grip to. Underneath, these are the trucks, and on the trucks are the wheel assembly. The truck actually bends a bit, so that's how when we're riding and we push on our toe or a heel, the board will carve. And then we've got our wheels with the bearings inside there. And if you look at the board, we've got 2 kicktails. This is the back, we call that the tail, and the front kicktail we actually call the nose. So we have the nose and the tail of the board. When we're standing on a skateboard, you can look down and even though you can't see the trucks, you can see the bolts that attach the trucks to the board. And so we always tell people just learning to skateboard, you want to make sure you put your feet over the bolts. That's so important in skateboarding that when you see someone land a trick like really well, you might say bolts as like a compliment. Behind that, we've got the kicktail. So if you were going to be doing any kick turns or any other tricks, that's where you get leverage here. So you put your weight back. You can pop your tail. You can spin it around. So there's all different ways to manipulate the board there. Wow. Buttery. Yo! Steve's out on that one. The first one was buttery and the second one was Steve's out.
That was good.
As you can see from my board, we also use different parts of the board besides the wheels to do different tricks. So when we're on our wheels, that's just riding the skateboard, but we could do tricks where we're sliding on the wooden part. That would be a board side or a nose side, tail side. And then you could also see on the trucks, they've been ground down a bit from doing different kinds of grinds on obstacles such as rails or ledges, things like that. My board has a bit of wear. I've had it for about a month. I think that's about a month of wear. Actually, not too much wear for a month, but. The most important part of the body might be what you're doing with your core on a skateboard, because everything is connected to that.
It's a good point.
Certainly feet, legs, ankles, that's important, your arms, but kind of like where you are in relation to where your skateboard is really important, especially in the beginning. It's one of the pivotal things we'll say is, bring your core down, or if you're going to be doing a turn, you want to have your weight back, finding your center, and then moving around that is going to be really important. If you were to go up the ramp and keep your center of gravity in the same exact place, you're going to quickly have your weight off and over the board and slip back. So you're always kind of shifting your weight back and forth, kind of in coordination with your knees. It's almost like playing catch with your own weight, because you let your board go out and then come back and then you keep going. It's delicate balance.
That really comes into play when you learn how to pump.
When you drop into a half pipe, gravity gives you potential energy, which turns into kinetic energy as you descend. But with friction and air resistance slowing you down, it'll only get you so far before you lose height and stop altogether. If you bend your knees and push into the floor here, you're using your own body to add to your energy pool. If on the other side you bring your body up, you're adding even more energy to propel you into the air.
It's very similar to, learning how to swing, like on a swing set by yourself. You're using that momentum where you go back, you're bringing your legs up, and then as you're coming down, releasing that tension by just straightening out your legs and pushing them out in front of you is what kind of propels you and gives you that momentum. And it's very similar to, when you're on this ramp, you can go back and forth and back and forth. And when you figure out how to really use your knees to your advantage to help you kind of retain the same amount of speed or even go faster, it's fun.
And when kids, once they learn how to do it and keep themselves going, 20 minutes later,
they can't get off. They're on this all day. Especially with pro skaters, or even anybody really who's been skateboarding for a very long time, it's often your knees that start to feel just the weight of all that, repetition and jumping down stuff over the course of time.
When we're skating, we're starting out by always keeping our knees slightly bent, because that way we have a bit of a buffer if we need to go up. A lot of times when people are first starting, they might stand with their feet very straight, but then if you hit a little crack, you'll fall right over. With your knees bent a little bit, you have that bounce. And so a lot of times on a skateboard, even when we're not jumping, we're applying weight to the board or we're de-weighting, and we're doing that primarily through our knees. Also, any trick where you are leaving the ground and coming back to it, your knees are the most important part of shock absorption, so you have to be able to absorb that impact. If you were to land with your knees straight, you're going to get all that force up through your body, and it's going to you're going to start to feel it pretty quick.
Yeah, in that sense too, your knees sort of act as springs, right?
When you ollie, you're generating nearly 4 times your body weight for the impact. With that stress going to your lower limbs, you need to rely on your foot bones and soft tissue to absorb and distribute that force. Unlike basketball, where you'll absorb shock on your vertical foot arches, skateboarders use a flat transverse arch, leaving the metatarsals to absorb the force.
I'm constantly on the balls of my feet, so I use my toes, it helps me feel a little more nimble.
Metatarsals 2 to 4 absorb the majority of the force, with the 4th metatarsal taking the most stress, about 29 times the pressure of a car tire.
For a lot of tricks, kind of the first step is thinking of foot placement. Like if I was helping a friend with a move, or a student with a move, it's where do you put your feet? Like the foot placement, beginning and end of the trick is kind of your connection to the board.
You're constantly trying to coordinate between, how much weight you're distributing between your toes and your heels.
Next to the skateboard, one of the most important pieces of skate gear are the sneakers that we wear. A lot of times people starting off on skateboards might show up with like a pair of normal like running shoes like this, but there's a couple things that make this not as easy to skate with. And one is the sole is actually very grippy. And so when you're skating, you have too much grip and you want to be able to move your foot around on the skateboard. And the other thing is that the extra padding gives you less what we call board feel. So when you have your foot on the board, you want to be able to kind of feel the curvature and shift your foot around to different positions. So that's why when you see skate sneakers, you see this very flat, universal, grippy sole surface there, so that you can grip when you're standing and applying pressure, but you can easily move things around. Also, you can see the parts on the side are also grippy, so that when you're doing things like ollies or kick flips, you're able to grip the grip tape and not rip your shoes too much. And also the soles are very thin, so you get that very curvy like this. But as the skaters age, we realize that wearing these all day starts to hurt, so you might find skaters putting on their skate shoes and then during the day, like these are my personal shoes, so I'll wear these here and then change into these for skateboarding. Maybe in like California in the bowls, you see people skating without shoes. Of course that's gonna like cause some issues with the grip tape rubbing against the toe knuckles and stuff, but yeah, wouldn't advise it. A lot of times people don't think much about the arms when they're first skating, but then when we explain it, the arms don't weigh a whole lot, but you can get them very far from your center of gravity, and you can twist them around, so you can take advantage of that to get the centrifugal force. A lot of times when we are doing a spinning move or a turning move, it starts from our shoulders and arms kind of leading that. If you watch skateboarding, you're looking at the skateboard, the lower body, but a lot of the trick is being done actually by the arms, kind of winding and unwinding, and they serve as counterbalances for the tricks you're doing. So if you're really far to this side, you might have your arms this way to balance the weight out, and then vice versa. If you wanted to come back this way really quickly, you can swing your arms to kind of keep that balance.
Yeah, there's just constant negotiation between your upper body and your lower body. So like, you know, for a lot of tricks that involve rotating your skateboard and your body, like if you're doing a 180, for example, you know, you'd lead with your upper body, so up here with your shoulders. And, you know, naturally, that makes your body feel a little awkward, like you're twisted up. And so your lower body is gonna wanna realign with your upper body. And so you always lead up here, and then the lower body is just very naturally gonna follow through.
The thing I always tell students is, look where you wanna go. Yeah. It sounds obvious, but a lot of times when you're skating, you might be kind of one step behind as far as where your head is looking. One example I would give is as you're going up a ramp. If you're just going up a ramp and coming back down the way you came, we would call that going back to fakie. I always say, as you're going up, you start to look back, because that's actually where you're going to go. Once you've kind of figured out what you need to do with your body, then you want to spot where you're heading, especially if you were going back and forth on a mini ramp like this. You're doing the trick, you're looking at the next kind of spotting where you're about to go. Also when you're skating down the street, even just from point A to point B, you want to make sure that you're kind of looking a little bit ahead for any kind of obstacles that are in your way. A lot of times it could be an uneven crack, or even if it's a smooth ground, if you hit a little pebble, we call it a stop rock. We have very hard, small wheels. It wedges there and it stops you in your track. Even the most experienced skater, you look back and you see that the telltale.
You almost never see those coming.
So when you're first starting skating and you're kind of like getting used to pushing around, getting comfortable turning, you're going to want to learn how to ollie, which is the trick that's going to get you up into the air. And the way the ollie works is basically we are standing on the board with our front foot towards the middle of the board and our back foot out by the tail like this. And then we start the trick by getting low, and then at the moment we jump up, we kick the tail to the ground. Oh, that was awful.
Dude, it's hard, right? Doing an ollie stationary.
It's so bad. It's so weird stationary. You're kicking the tail, but really the better word to use that we would say is snap the tail or pop the tail, because it's a really quick motion and it's happening as your whole body is already jumping up. So your body is off, it's de-weighting, it's up in the air, and at the last second, you snap the tail, which then catapults the board into the air, like this. Your front foot goes to the side and starts to pull up the board additionally and also level it out. And then the board and you are going up, and then the board and you go down. So you're not actually pulling the board up, you're kind of catapulting it as you're on top of it. It's this motion right here. We call this the ollie board, and it's basically a skateboard with these rubber platforms on, and then that helps isolate the motion of the wheels so that they can really focus on that snapping motion. I might have a student get comfortable just bringing the board up and down. So that's one drill. The next drill is stepping down and getting the foot sideways like this. Get comfortable like this. And then you can kind of start to jump and pop. So you're just getting the pop. And then you put it all together.
Nice.
But the trick everyone wants to know if they're getting into skating is the kickflip. It used to be called an ollie kickflip, now we just call it a kickflip. When you're taking that front foot, sliding up, instead of just sliding up and leveling off, you're sliding up and then flicking the toe side and making the board flip, and then you catch it back. It's a bit of magic. It feels really awesome when you land it. There's no practical purpose for doing a kickflip outside of an ollie, but it is just the coolest thing. A lot of students, when they're first getting into skating, that's the trick they want to learn.
That's
and
the first
so
thing.
an ollie, getting a really solid ollie is essential to getting to the kickflip. Yeah.
That was better.
That felt better, right? Yeah.
I'll take that one, I think.
Yeah. So skaters are their own worst critics. Like you might have seen. I saw Simon ollie that first try and then 4 times in a row, but you could see him shaking his head. His back foot was floating a little bit. He just didn't like the way it felt, but that last one, I think after a few times he got
yeah, I think it felt a little better that time.
Yeah, cleaned it up.
It just feels better, you know. We're kind of going into earlier about how there's ways to land tricks that are more desirable than others. He mentioned landing bolts, right? So there were a couple there where I felt like I was landing a little bit a little odd.
The trick is what the board is doing, but the style is what the body is doing.
Yeah,
so
we kind of went back.
Every time the board went over, so it was an ollie. But the way that he interacted with the board was different.
All right, let me say more.
That was good. Was that the best one?
I'll take that.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
There's a funny thing in skateboarding where they say kickflip is the hardest trick. Once you learn how to do all these other advanced tricks, 360 flips and whatever, people often neglect the kickflip.
Another game we play a lot for training, I guess you could call it training in a way, but just for fun, is a game of skate, which is similar to a game of horse. Yeah, horse with a basketball where you're shooting balls, where you just find a friend and you take turns trying tricks. And most of the time I'm playing it, it's really just that competitive element just raises the stakes just a little bit, but it's really just an excuse to try tricks that you might not normally try.
skateboarding remains an understudied sport in the academic world, so the average rate of injury can vary. A study between 1987 to 1998 showed a rate of 8.9 injuries per 1,000 participants, while a survey of 197 skaters in 2020 showed just 0.55 injuries per 1,000 hours of skating.
One of the most common ways someone is going to get injured on a skateboard is if they're falling off while they're trying something and then bracing for impact instead of staying loose while they fall. In the moment you fall, you go into fight or flight and you stiffen up, and before you know it, you're taking that impact on one joint instead of being able to spread it out. So you want to keep the momentum going. A lot of times that means bailing the board and keeping going. If you're going to hit a point, you try to spread the impact, so you're going to roll or compress. So if you're landing on the ground, you might need to roll or hit multiple points. So if I'm falling down, instead of just reaching out like this, I might want to hit multiple points, and it kind of spreads it out and then minimizes the impact to any particular joint. If you're skating a lot and taking a lot of impact, that does end up having an impact on your entire musculoskeletal system. I do know that there are skaters with like back pain or knee pain, maybe not specifically from one particular impact, but just from the repetitive use.
In a 2021 study of 64 skaters, the lumbosacral region was right behind the knee and ankle in the most frequent areas of pain at 16.5%. All areas of the body that take the most stress from impacts.
If you think of skateboarding too, even just the motion of pushing on a skateboard is asymmetric. So after a whole day of skateboarding, one of your hips, depending on your stance, is going to be a little lower. So skating feels great, but then when you start to walk after a long day of skating, you kind of wobble a bit. Over days and months and years of that, there could be more of like a chronic pain that would build up from that. One of the ways to combat that is to skate switch stance, which is skating in your other stance. You can try tricks that counterbalance each other. You can spread that out so that you're not like having that excessive strain on certain parts of your body. Skateboarding, for better or worse, we do have a rap for having injuries, and so we've affectionately named a few. I know one, if you bang your elbow and it swells up, we call that a swellbow. Or there's names for injuries such as hippers, shinners. We've got shark bites when a board hits you. There's also the credit card, which you can imagine this part and landing in a certain way, which is definitely paints a picture. In skating on rails, there is sacking the rail. You can imagine. Yeah, another injury I forgot to mention. So if you're going really fast, so if you're bombing a hill, that's what we call it, going down a hill, you might end up falling or flying off your board, and then you get some pretty bad road rash from the abrasion there. So skateboarding has a reputation for having a lot of injuries, but in fact, over the course of a career, it's very similar to other very active sports such as basketball or soccer. One thing I think that is different with skateboarding is that a lot of the injuries it's your fault. It's you and the board, and that there are a lot of injuries that can happen right in the beginning, and I do know that first couple times skateboarding is critical, because if you're putting your feet together, there's a lot of, I guess you could say, rookie mistakes that are going to cause you to fall right away. It's a bit difficult to get even the speed up or the ability to be able to jump off of something big enough to hurt yourself, that it's self-limiting in a way, because by the time you've gotten to the point of, say, jumping down a 3-stair, you've fallen so many times up to that point that you've kind of become comfortable with it. There's a way there that you could kind of think like the risk in it is kind of balanced by the difficulty of skateboarding in itself. I think learning how to skateboard could generally be difficult because it's not something you can pick up right away, but I think that difficulty is what keeps us coming back to it. For myself, after 30 years of skating, I'm still learning new things and finding new challenges in it. There's always something new. Like I was saying, in skateboarding, falling is a given. We're going to fall as we try, or fall or bail, but as that's happening, you're learning more about it. And you might even be trying one trick, and in the process of trying that, accidentally do something else and stumble upon another area. And so you're kind of unlocking different tricks along the way.
The trick is what the board is doing, but the style is what the body is doing. When the board feel is right, and your feet are aligned with the bolts, you move as one. There's no telling where the board ends, and your body begins.